welcome to Boat Talk, where we talk about all the ings of boats, as in repowering, building, operating, and this week, cooling and tensioning. And we're going to talk about that stuff.
Good stuff.
We're coming at you here today from a different location than you used to seeing. We're in our new warehouse space. We're kind of expanding a little bit here at Seaboard. And so we thought, what better to use as a backdrop than all these beautiful Cummins engines here? So we got what is that, M11, a wet M11?
We got a wet M11. We got 6 CTA 450 and a 370 diamond, and a couple of 370 diamonds, some long blocks, some QSCs. We got it all, man. Slim lines, everything.
And if you maybe catch a glimpse way in the back, Tony's hot rod's back there too.
It's back there. I need to get a picture of that bad boy.
Yeah, put that up on right here.
Put a couple of pontoons on it, get it in the water.
Okay, so this week we're going to start out again like we have been. We're still kind of like doing the first 10 episode. You know, this is like just
getting our feet wet.
Yeah, getting our feet wet. We're doing 10 episodes. That's our goal. Let's see how it goes. So far, the feedback's been great. Thank you for all the emails. We actually have some between two sterns joke, a good one today.
We do, and it's a good one.
From a listener.
Yeah.
So that's good.
This is good.
So we'll get to that later. And what I wanted to start, we've been starting all these with a how we got to now. And so I thought a good one would be how we got to now, how you came to be working here at Seaboard Marine. So maybe you could tell a little bit of your story.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a long story.
What did you do before Seaboard?
Yeah, I was going to say, where do we start here?
I'll ask some questions.
I've been into computers for a very long time, and I started in the IT industry, developing software and networking and all kinds of geeky stuff. And that was my career path. And when I went to school, I decided, do I want to be an engineer? Do I want to be this or that? And at the end of the day, I decided I wanted to take whatever I learned and at least apply it to something. So I decided to get a business degree. So I got a business degree, and it turned out for me it was the best thing in the world because I'm kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy. I like doing everything. Not great at anything, but I just like doing everything. So anyways, I was in the IT industry. So when I met my wife,
Tony's daughter,
I was introduced to Tony, and it was an automatic barrage of questioning.
From Tony? No.
From Tony, because he wanted to figure out who I was and what I was made of and this and
what
that.
He could learn from you.
And what he could glean from me. And
right.
He did. He barraged me with just a tremendous amount of questions about networking and this and that. And Tony had, come to find out, Tony had a lot of experience with the internet. He was on the forums. And
he was an early adopter of the internet.
He was an early adopter, and we talked about the old school days of, having a 386 and a 486 and these old computers and MS-DOS and all this geeky stuff. So long story short, at some point, it was proposed to me at the place I was working that they wanted, which was in Los Angeles, which was a long commute, and they wanted me to come out there and work. And so Leslie and I were trying to figure out how that was going to work, to be away from her parents, her family, this and that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, Tony came and said, "Hey, why don't you come work at Seaboard?" And automatically, I was like, I don't know squat about boats. I don't know anything about boats. I don't know if this is a good idea.
You had already been doing his website, though, for a while.
I was doing his website and some graphic design and marketing, things
right.
like that, which I was comfortable with. But as soon as the proposition of, hey, you're going to have to get heavily involved in boats, it was automatically, I was shocked and surprised, and I didn't know if it was going to work. But we all jumped in, head first or feet first, whatever you want to say. And the rest is kind of history. So my goal was to take what I knew about technology and the internet and marketing and all of these things that were still kind of proliferating around 2010, 2011. And I said, you know what? Let's apply all that stuff to the business and see what happens. Let's get the information out there. Let's come up with products. Let's come up with ideas. Let's benefit the community with as much information as possible. And so, again, that was 2011, 2010, somewhere around there. And here we are, 2025.
Yeah. And
it seemed to work. We like to give a tremendous amount of information for free and get it all out there, help the community.
Tony always says, the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, it works in kind. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Doing something altruistically always comes back in a positive way.
Yeah, and that's what part of why we're making this podcast, in the spirit of that same thing, just trying to put out information. You also, when you first started, you did, as did I, and we're going to talk about mine in another episode, how we got to now. But you spent about a year, maybe a little more than a year, in the Frank Repower boot camp, right?
Absolutely. So when I started, Tony's idea, and it was the right idea, was to let's get this guy's feet really wet, and let's get him on boats with Frank. And Frank is awesome. Frank's been doing repowers and boat building, and working with Tony for over 40 years. Okay, so
he's the master.
He's the quintessential guru master of anything boat related, powertrain, fiberglass, propping, all that stuff. He's amazing. So I spent about 2 years with him. My first boat was the Susan Lee. Okay, we took out a 1940s or 50s gray marine, which is kind of like a Detroit diesel. And for those of you who know about Detroit diesels and these old diesels, you cannot kill them. Okay. However, the trade-off is you're going to have to deal with an oily, nasty,
mess,
gross engine. And so that was my first experience. We pulled that motor out, and I learned, how motors get mounted, how do we do alignments, all these things. And then I started becoming introduced to the electronics of the engine, which really piqued my interest. And that's a story for.
And that's where your background really came into play because you know about electronics and programming and all that stuff.
Right.
And Tony had already been kind of doing a little bit of a dive into that stuff, and you guys took it to a whole nother level.
We took it to a whole nother level, obviously. And again, there's stories that go beyond what we're talking about here about with SmartCraft. And we got the J1939 displays. We could talk for an extended amount of time about that.
We'll do probably multiple episodes on instrumentation and all that.
Right. But that's how I cut my teeth. I cut my teeth on boats with Frank, with my hands.
And for those of you who don't know Corey, if you have any question about, he's the preeminent expert on anything to do with Cummins mid-range, anything from, a 4BT to a M11, mechanical or electronic instrumentation. He knows this software in these screens that we sell. He knows every line of code in that thing and can tweak and adjust everything. He knows what every wire and every plug and port and everything.
All the SmartCraft systems from, version 1 up to actually phase 1, which was in the beginning, the early 2000s, up till now. And not only that, Cummins has also switched to the C command system. So there's a lot that I know, and there's probably a lot that I wish I didn't know, but I do know it.
Yeah, and it's a crazy world. There's been so many changes and different versions, and there's different, there's SmartCraft, there's all those different versions of SmartCraft. Just in the SmartCraft world is a headache.
That's right.
So he's the expert on all that stuff, and spent years developing our own products around all that, and learning how it works. You had to learn how it all works first, right? To build
100%. You got to learn how it works. It's like reverse engineering, right? How do the systems work? What can and can't you do, right? What's the best practice? What's things you want to stay away from? And again, it goes through the lineage of the last 25 years of when Cummins finally decided we're going to make electronic engines in the marine market, right?
Yeah. So stay tuned for some videos specifically we want to do one on the starting circuit, because that's come up a lot lately.
Yep.
We're going to do videos on instrumentation and electronic engines, mechanical engines, all that stuff's coming.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So cool. That's a nice little how we got to now. I want to move on to some of our content from our, we've been getting a lot of emails.
Thank you.
Boat Talk, SBMar.com.
Boat Talk at SBMar.com. Keep sending. But yes, the emails are starting to swell up. It's a good thing.
We're finally starting to get some good content, like the Between Two Sterns coming up. But one of the things I want to say is the reason that we're making this show is because there's just not enough of us to go around. We get too many emails, too many phone calls. So if you're watching the show, you're like, hey, these guys seem cool. They seem like they know what they want. And you get on your phone, you start typing up a long question about a very specific scenario on your boat. Chances are, we've already got some good information out there. Like if you have something about alternators, please watch my alternator video before you call, because if you watch that 2 or 3 times, you probably answered all the questions that I can answer for you, and you're going to save me time and help us be more available. So look at our content first. Post in our forum. We may not be able to get to all of your emails and calls anymore. So it's just the unfortunate thing of us growing, but we're still working really hard to keep developing products, to keep things in stock. Some of the things, I don't want to say anything, but certain big companies don't necessarily always have. everything in stock. We try to keep everything in stock so you guys can keep going, because, there's been a lot of times where people they need a major part, like an aftercooler or something. You're down, you got a charter coming up, and 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
We try to fill that void, and that's what we're working hard to do. So hopefully you can appreciate that. Try our forums, watch our videos. Please refrain from sending us really long, detailed questions. We'll try. We're trying.
We're a small group of people.
Yeah. If you can't find the help anywhere else, by all means, shoot us an email. We'll do what we can. We'll try to get to them. But we're getting spread thin. So just wanted to say that. We have the sbmar.com/community. That's our forum. That's a good place to go.
It's a great place. Not only to go to ask your question, but like you said, before you ask the question, there's a feature on there to search.
Yep.
I mean, there's over 5,000 different topics, all Cummins related, mostly 95% Cummins related. Go in there and search. Let that be your knowledge base before you go in and ask a question, because the worst thing is we're repeating ourselves with stuff, right?
Right.
The knowledge, most of the knowledge is there. If there's something new that you cannot find, then we're there. We're here to help.
What we're trying to do is not just sit there and answer the same email day after day after day, because that's not valuable. It doesn't add anything. And with technology these days, we shouldn't have to do that. And by the way, if you want free advice
I want free advice
from the master, Tony himself, or from Corey on instrumentation, or even myself on exhaust, and we also have Rob Shepis and a few other really prolific contributors in the forum.
Community. Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to, if you email Tony some long email, he's going to send you a link to his paid consulting. But if you put that same question in the forum, you'll probably get an answer from Tony, the same answer that you would have paid $200 an hour for. So use the forum. It's there.
Yeah, one of the great things about the forum is that Tony is very passionate about what he does, and he is passionate about getting the information out there. He spends a pretty large amount of his time on the forum. When he goes home after a day of work, he'll sit on his computer, he'll go to the forum, and he'll answer people's questions.
A glass of red wine.
A couple glasses of red wine, get on the forum.
He's got the laptop in his recliner.
Yeah.
Probably no shirt on.
Right.
I don't know if you want that mental image, but you got it now.
Well, I got it. You just gave it to me.
And he sits there. That's his happy place. So take advantage of it.
Agreed. That's the right place. I can't tell you how many times we get a long-winded email from somebody who's really just stuck and has an issue, and I feel that because I know what that feels like, and we all do. But man, it's so hard. Like I said, we're a small group, but there's maybe 10 of us. All right, and we're trying to do it all. So again, just to not beat a dead horse, but use the forum and some other things that are free first. Yeah.
Use the tools.
100%.
Okay. So let's get to some of this. Speaking of Tony, he had a little bit of a I would say, critique of our last episode, which I think was fair. So we talked about fuel cooler removal.
We talked
at
great length. Yeah. Yes, we did.
And if you didn't catch that episode, go back. I don't remember if it was 4 or 5. I think it was 4. Yeah, I think it was 4. But anyway, and one of the things Tony pointed out is that we never mentioned fuel coolers as they relate to ECM cooling. So I think Corey and I, at least speaking for myself, as we're talking about fuel cooler removal, I'm mainly picturing the mechanical BNC, because that's kind of low-hanging fruit, the most common fuel cooler removal kits that we sell. We don't sell a lot of removal kits for the electronic engines, but it is worth mentioning, and I talked to Tony about this morning. I tried to get him out here, but he's a little busy right now answering emails and trying to get more products.
He's on the forum right now.
He's actually trying to source parts for our seawater pump right now.
That's true.
So anyway, the sort of the bottom line is, it should be known that the fuel cooler, the fuel cools the ECM. The fuel comes from the tank through a little plate, a little heat exchanging plate, right? Like a heat sink kind of thing, and goes through the ECM to try to establish a steady state temperature for the ECM.
It's a heat sink basically, right? And it's trying to normalize and stabilize the temperature of the ECM to a certain point. The ECM, and we talked about this earlier, can consume a pretty good amount of amperage as it's running the engine and firing the injectors, this and that. And so with that, it's going to create heat. So obviously we want to remove that heat and stabilize the heat on the computer. When you start talking about specifics of how much heat, this and that, that's a topic for another.
Right.
The engineers can sit around and hash all of that out. But it is a component that needs to be thought about if you're going to remove the fuel cooler. But again, what kind of other things are we talking about here, right? We're talking about how big are the tanks? Are they integral tanks? Things of that nature that might make the ECM cooling inconsequential, based on the decision if you're going to remove the cooler or not.
Right. Yeah. So, speaking of some hard facts. So, according to Tony, the maximum allowable fuel temperature, and this again comes down to optimizing for a test cell, right? So that everything performs within their test cell, like we talked about in the previous episode, is 140 degrees. Does that mean if the fuel sneaks up to 150, the ECM is going to overheat? Have you ever even heard of an ECM overheating?
Never heard of it.
It's really not really a big issue. Exactly how this would affect your decision whether or not to get rid of your fuel cooler, I would say it just might move the needle a little bit more towards, okay, if we talked about all these scenarios, I don't want to go over them all, but
basically if you're on the edge,
Right. Yeah, if you're in a hot climate, if you have small tanks, if you don't have integrated tanks, if you run for long hours, all those same things we talked about in the previous episode. If you have all these risk factors for concentrating heat into a relatively small amount of fuel, and we said, and you also need full power. That's the only qualifier we said. Like, you're going to really need that top horse, because on a mechanical engine, it doesn't really matter how hot the fuel gets. Tony said fuel could be boiling. All it'll do is shave off a little bit of top end horsepower.
Right.
You'll still achieve the same cruise speed. The boat the throttle position might be a little different. You won't even probably notice it, but unless you have some kind of, I don't know, automatic electronic throttle that sets it to 60% or whatever. If you're looking at that, you might need a little bit more, just a little more juice to do the same thing, but you wouldn't notice it unless Tony says, if you're like right on the edge with your prop, like you're over propped and you load up your boat and your boat gets heavy and your fuel is really hot, all these things working against you. Now all of a sudden you may not be able to get on plane on your way home at the end of a long day. So yeah, there are times when you need the fuel cooler. And what we're talking about with this ECM thing is, yeah, you might want to be cognizant of the fact that, that there's that 140 degree limit. You're not supposed to be over that. So you don't want to have, really, really hot fuel. And if you have all these other risk factors, you just want to add to it that consideration that, oh, okay, I do have an ECM on my engine. I have a quantum engine, electronic engine. Maybe I should keep the fuel cooler.
Yeah.
If you have all those factors.
That's right. 100%.
That's about it, to distill it down to a simple. Mm-hmm. So cool. Thank you, Tony, for that comment.
That critique.
Yeah, you're right. He's right. He's always right.
He's always right.
Okay, so one of the things we wanted to talk about is that came up a couple times in emails this week with customers and phone calls is, and on the shop floor, the QSB stretchy belt.
QSB 6.7.
Thank you. QSB 6.7, and I even wrote it down here. QSB 6.7. I didn't say it, but I wrote it down.
So that engine platform is specific in that it utilizes a stretchy belt system. And you say, what is a stretchy belt? Well, a stretchy belt is a specific type of belt on the engine that it's not utilizing a belt tensioner.
Right. There's no spring tensioner.
There's no spring tensioning to this belt. Apparently, however they manufacture this belt, it's inherent into the design of the belt. Okay, so is this a good system? Is it a bad system? We could probably debate that. But it is different, and people are getting used to it and trying to understand it. And it can be a little challenging because sometimes there could be issues with it. How tight do I make this belt? Because when they come from the factory and we see 6.7 engines, they come tight.
They are tight. It almost seems like you're doing something wrong.
Right.
And the 6.7, the way that and we'll put up a pic, but the way that it tensions, for those of you not watching, the alternator runs on this really long screw. I think it's a half inch thread screw, or
it's all thread,
12 millimeters, something like that. But anyway, it's this really long, about a half inch, like almost looks like a piece of all thread with a bolt head on the end. Mm-hmm. And you run that alternator, like you put the belt on, and then the alternator moves like a solid, I'd say 3 inches, maybe more.
There's quite a bit of travel, yeah.
And the belt loses slack at about a half inch. It starts stretching, and it stretches, and it stretches. Yep. And we had a case don't know if we can put this picture up, but we had a case of a guy who had, so there's a spacer between the alternator and where the bolt pulls on it, right?
Yes.
There's a spacer, and it's about, I don't know, 1.25 inches long or something like that, about that long. And that spacer is just a sleeve that goes over the bolt, and that you're supposed to tighten it all the way until the alternator
Makes
hits
contact.
hits
That's
that,
your stop point.
that spacer, that sleeve. It's like a bolt sleeve.
Yep.
When it hits that sleeve, you're tensioned, and that's it. It should be a no-brainer. The idea is
Set it and forget it.
set it and forget it.
That's the idea of it, right?
And the belt is supposed to do the tensioning because it is stretchy. And by the way, we're not talking about the stretchy belt for the water pump. We're going to get to that, to water pump belts later, but we're talking about the main serpentine belt. Yeah,
that's right.
And there is another version of this USB 6.7 that has an extra idler, so there's more alternator wrap for the high output. Remember those?
That's a military spec engine, and yeah, it has a 24-volt alternator with a swing that's a little bit further. So what they do, they have a different stretchy belt, and they put an idler on there.
Yeah.
Not very common, but we do see it.
Yeah, and if you want to see that, there's actually pictures. You go to the belt page on our website on the QSB 6.7, and you'll see pictures of both different wraps. But what have we seen in the field? I at least know a few local guys that are running the QSB 6.7 that kind of like say, I go through belts a lot.
Yeah, we have, over the last, I'd say, 18 months, maybe even 2 years, we put a lot of QSB 6.7 slimline engines out there. It's one of Tony's favorite platforms, and I don't blame him. It's a very good platform for the amount of horsepower produced, but it also has the stretchy belt architecture. And there's some commercial guys out there that say no matter what they do,
200, 300, 400 hours maybe.
Well, some of them are getting like 500 to 600 hours.
I've heard one guy said he gets like 200, 300 hours out of it. But
and so how do we mitigate that? How do we approach it? It's very difficult because the only thing you can change is the amount of tension on the belt, right? Do we run it all the way up to the stop and then that's it? Or do we run it? I think what we do in-house is we try to run it all the way up to the stop and then we give it a couple turns back. Just a little bit of relief.
Right.
Okay, so that it's not under as much tension.
And we're still experimenting with that. And in fact, I just ordered some stainless steel material to make those bolt sleeves. And Tony wants to play with making a couple different lengths. We're thinking about a little aftermarket spacer that might just reduce the tension a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing because what we're doing is looking for field feedback.
Right.
So, we're going to have to not only know who we gave this is, by the way, this is how we do everything.
Right.
You got to, there's no way we don't have a test cell that we can just dyno an engine for 500 hours.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to, a lot of our prototyping and R&D and things that we do is we have a local base of customers here. We know what platform they have.
We have all you out there.
Yeah, we have all you out there. We make modifications that we think is right, and then we monitor the feedback and make small adjustments to try to mitigate whatever issue is. Right now, there's a small issue with the stretchy belts, and it's not that pervasive, but it is enough to where we should be addressing it, and we are.
Yeah. So if you have any experience with the QSB 6.7 stretchy belt, we'd love to hear about it in the forum or shoot us a brief email, please.
Succinct.
Yeah. Email about just the facts, man. We just want to need to know, what you've seen with hours and what you've done with tension. But that's something worth that we're looking into because we have seen a little bit of a higher wear than some of our customers would like.
Well, so that anyone would like. Yeah, right.
All right. While we're on the topic of belt tension, one thing that came up this week was I had a customer asking about how to properly tension the V-belt for the older, I think it's the QSB 5.9.
Yeah.
So
it has an idler.
Yeah. And you have to actually manually tension that. So there's another stretchy belt, the QSB 6.7 and the QSB 5.9 later models came with a stretchy belt for the water pump drive. And that one, we have a little video. It's like 6-second video, but it's gold.
It is gold.
People have got a lot of views.
All the 6 seconds you need on how to do it.
And it just shows you, it's like putting a chain back on a bicycle. That's how I describe it.
Yeah,
right?
It rolls on, it rolls off.
Yeah, it rolls on, rolls off.
Yep.
Cummins actually sells a special tool for that.
Yeah, there's a metal piece.
But even Brendan, the master mechanic, says you don't need that. You don't need it. So check out that video if you ever need to replace a stretchy belt. But the older versions have a V-belt. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I do get this question from time to time. And when it comes to V-belts, there's actually whole papers written on proper tensioning of V-belts. And it comes down to basically, if you look at it's like a deflection per pound as it relates to the distance, right? So the longer the belt, the more deflection you have per pound, right? So you could nerd out on that all day long. I think Gates has a PDF you can find. I think
sure.
I have it on my computer. I saved it and I nerded out on it one day, but I don't remember it all because I can't hold all that crap in my brain. But anyway, most mechanics don't stress on that kind of stuff. They just kind of, tune it to a G flat, I say,
G flat. Yeah.
But it's sort of a mechanic feel thing. I'd say there's probably a pretty good range of acceptable values. You don't want that thing so tight that it's going to burn up the bearings in your pump, but you also don't want it so loose that it's going to slip
or slap or doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So pretty tight. You should be able to push on it with your finger and have a little bit of deflection, but it should be tight. And that's really the only way I can really describe it. It's kind of hard. That's a hard one to nail down. And if you call and ask me over the phone, I can't really tell you. I'm not going to dive into the Gates, PDF. I guess I could email it to you, but
I think that system is not. I agree with you. That system is not necessary. That's it. And when it comes to mechanics and working on engines, there's a tremendous amount that are very quantitative, right? What's the torque specs of this and that? Some of those things are very critical, right angles and this, and some of the stuff is like, just, get it tight enough.
Yeah.
Or get the feel. And with the idler and the V-belt design, it really is exactly what you said. Get it tight. Don't make it crazy tight where it's going to snap or or like you said, take out the bearings.
Right.
But also don't make it so loose that you could just pull, I
Right.
mean, it's kind of
a
a feel thing.
Yeah, it's just a feel thing. And if you're not sure, find a mechanic or somebody who's got experience with it and have
With
them.
the feel.
Yeah, and maybe you should feel your belt before you take it off and try to get it somewhere close to that.
Yeah.
So maybe a little tighter than the old one because the old one's probably stretched a little bit.
Sure.
So, so that's those are our topics from our callers today.
Good topics.
I've got a good between two sterns here, and this comes from Chris Sellers. And by the way, if you send us a topic or a
Between two sterns.
A between two sterns idea, we will. If you're in the lower 48, at least.
Yeah. If you're in Taiwan, you're not getting a shirt.
We'll send you one of these SMX propeller shirts.
Yeah.
So send us in some ideas
of all the boating community.
And also, one reason I want to give you a reason to subscribe. Well, we don't like say smash that subscribe button. I try not to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But,
It's too much.
But if you do subscribe, one of the things I don't know if you noticed, but I don't monetize the videos. By the way, the only reason we monetize is because YouTube shows the ads anyway. And I've heard that they actually do better in the algorithms if you monetize. So it's like, well, if they're already showing ads anyway, and they say it might do better because YouTube wants to promote monetized videos. So that's why we do it, just because we don't really care about the money on that. But the reason you should subscribe is because I don't monetize. So there might be less ads. I don't know. There might be less ads the first 24 hours. So if you subscribe, you can watch the videos before they're monetized. So they're even freer. We're not even
freer
than free.
Yeah.
You don't even
That's
have,
a no-brainer.
Hopefully you don't even have to watch an ad. Now, if YouTube's showing ads, even though it's not monetized, I can't.
You can do.
Yeah. Okay. So
this is Between Two Sterns?
Between Two Sterns.
Oh, this is a good one. This is
from Chris Sellers and, Sellers.
Yep.
And we sent him a shirt.
Yeah,
he's down in SoCal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
He's the one who was on our very first episode. He was the one who was out in the ocean on a trawler, on a monk, headed up to the. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I remember that.
I hope I got that right, because if not, I'm an idiot. But yeah, he's the one who was on his way steaming north.
Okay.
We couldn't talk to him, I don't think. We talked to his buddies, but
okay.
Okay, so he says in the Pacific Northwest at Rocha Harbor, or San Juan Island, a lady approached the dockmaster and said, "I would like to tell you what a fantastic marina you have, and everything is really first class. However, I have one complaint." The dockmaster said, "What would that be?" She replied, "The gangway going up to the shore, it's really steep." So he looked at her and he said, "Ma'am, you're not from around here, are you?" And she said, "We live in Michigan. We have our boat on the Great Lakes." The dockmaster said, "Ma'am, come back in 6 hours and we'll have that gangway fixed for you."
Not 12 hours.
All right, so that's our show. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Subscribe, send us emails.
BoatTalk@sbmar.com.
boattalk@sbmar.com. And don't forget to leverage our free forum, sbmar.com/community.
That's right.